Mexicans are the biggest consumers of sugary drinks in the world. And in Mexico, Coca-Cola is king. But the country's love affair with fizzy drinks is causing a diabetes emergency.
Y que en estos momentos, pues mi papá ya descansa en paz.
In poor towns across the country, Coca-Cola is more available than even fresh water.
Children grow up malnourished, and then because they're drinking a lot of Coca-Cola, their body doesn't assimilate the sugar. It's a terrible combination.
I've come to the region that drinks the most Coke to find out why people are dying from too much sugar.
Te han llamado, Pedro, para tocar en otro esto, ¿no?
Sí, otro evento tenemos ahorita de difunto. No, pues a veces entra la tristeza, dice uno, está cañón, del ver cómo acaba uno, pues. O sea, pues de que vamos todos a pasar ese proceso de morir, sí, pero el sufrimiento que pasa uno siendo diabético, es lo que entra por la mente y dicen, está cañón, mejor me cuido.
Pedro Jimenez has been living with diabetes for the past 12 years. Mexico is grappling with an obesity epidemic. It's the #1 killer, and in Chiapas, the poorest state, health officials have declared a diabetes emergency, a fourfold increase in deaths over the last 30 years. As a musician, Pedro is often called to play at funerals of people who have died too young. This is San Cristobal. More sugary drinks are consumed here than anywhere else in the world.
We've come to the local cemetery with Pedro. He plays in a band and they have been hired to play at the funeral of a man that died from COVID today.
He was also diabetic. And so, at much greater risk from the virus.
Pedro, ¿cómo estás?
Everyone in Pedro's family has diabetes.
Señora, ¿cómo está?
He lives with his mother Maria and brother Roberto. But as I arrive, I discover that Roberto is seriously unwell.
¿Cómo te sientes, Roberto?
En mi cabeza que no tiene fuerza. Casi no puedo abrir los ojos, solo quiere estar cerrado.
He needs to see a doctor.
Roberto is feeling really bad, and his brother is taking him to hospital. Apparently his sugar levels have gone up.
Roberto's symptoms, tiredness, sweating, confusion, are all signs he could be having a diabetic emergency. If his blood sugar levels are too high, it could be life-threatening.
Buenos días. Le vamos a hacer un chequeo de la glucosa, ¿vale?
Un piquetito, ¿sale?
Y no es COVID, doctor, ¿no?
Tenemos que sacarle una plaquita. Eso lo podemos hacer. ¿Sale?
Pero la diabetes complica los pulmones también.
Por la diabetes, si está descontrolado, se puede complicar.
273.
1.73. Ahí va.
Pues, no. Casi no ha bajado.
Ligeramente elevaditos.
Sí, por favor.
No se preocupen. En los diabéticos es muy importante revisar el abdomen y todo eso para descartar síntomas.
Aquí en esta comunidad, ¿usted atiende mucha gente diabética?
Hay demasiado.
Sí. The doctor is going to keep Roberto here for more tests. He's going to test him for COVID, and his sugar levels are pretty high. If he is infected with COVID, it could be really bad news for him.
Here in Chiapas, 3,000 people die each year from diabetes-related illness. It's the second leading cause of death after heart disease.
De a 20 dame. Ponle todo.
I can see why people like this. It's very tasty and cheap. But 1/3 of Mexicans have obesity, and the country is amongst the top consumers of sugary drinks in the world.
In 2010, the Mexican Statistics Agency, INEGI, found that people here drank on average more than 2 liters of Coca-Cola a day, more than 800 liters of Coke in a year. Everywhere you look, junk food and fizzy drinks are on sale. It's part of the culture.
I've come to meet Maria and Pedro. They're here because Pedro brought her out of the house because she's very worried about Roberto's health. It's been deteriorating in the last few days, and he also tested for COVID.
They've had a tough few days in quarantine.
Señora, ¿cómo está? ¿Cómo le va? Pedro, ¿cómo
Bien,
estás?
buenas noches.
¿Usted ha estado muy preocupada por Roberto?
Sí, de verdad sí.
Sí.
Hasta me lloro parece.
Sí. ¿Sacaste a tu mamá de la casa para que se distraiga un
para que
rato?
se distraiga tantito y ahora sí que un ratito, mientras haya vida, hay que divertirnos un poquito.
¿Cuántos amigos tienes diabéticos?
Tengo varios.
Sí.
Tengo varios. Incluso hoy llegó uno a verme, uno ahí, ahí compró una botella de Coca-Cola de 2 litros. Y me dijo, échale, me dijo, no le di. Y también es diabético y casi se lo acabó.
Señor, ¿usted por qué cree que la gente toma tanta Coca-Cola?
Que dije yo, es que como toman antes, así ya se acostumbraron.
Sí, ya se volvió costumbre.
Coca-Cola has invested in low sugar options in Mexico, but they don't appear to be popular here. People like traditional Coke with lots of sugar and gas. Although Coca-Cola says its traditional recipe now has 30% less sugar. You only have to drive around town to see the scale and reach of Coca-Cola.
Acá hay Coca-Cola también.
But opposition is building.
We've been driving for around 5 minutes, and I've counted 18 places where they sell Coca-Cola. Keep counting.
I'm with Dr. Marcos Arana. He's campaigning against the power and the influence of Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola ha establecido una estrategia, ha desarrollado una estrategia precisamente para que sea un producto que esté totalmente disponible, pero también a través de convencer a consumidores para que vendan refrescos a muy pequeña escala y obviamente genera pues muchos consumidores cautivos. Esta es la fábrica de Coca-Cola, es de fábrica de Coca-Cola. Es una de las más grandes de México.
The owners are allowed to extract more than 300,000 gallons of water a day, a concession that was granted more than 10 years ago.
Coca-Cola diría que ellos están generando mucho trabajo en la región, ¿eso es verdad?
Bueno, ahí, según sus propias cifras, si quieres, acercamos, ahí tienen, dice 400 empleos, que obviamente no compensa para nada el impacto ecológico, ambiental y social y en salud que tiene. Se obtuvieron obviamente hace tiempo, la situación ha cambiado, la ciudad ha crecido mucho, tiene más necesidades de agua.
Coca-Cola says it's committed to a responsible marketing policy which complies with the laws and regulations in Mexico and points to Mexico's Water Commission, which found the concession did not put the population's water supply at risk. It says it understands water is a vital shared resource and has been investing in conservation projects for over a decade. I'm leaving San Cristobal and heading out to some of the remote indigenous communities in Chiapas. In the 90s, this territory was seized and held by Marxist rebels.
I'm on my way to San Andrés La Raizar. It's an indigenous town 1 hour away from San Cristobal de las Casas, and once it was the stronghold of the Zapatista National Liberation Army. It's today in communities like that that Coca-Cola is king.
I've been told the local shamans have been using Coca-Cola as part of their religious ceremonies.
Señora María, ¿cómo está? Mucho gusto.
Maria is a practicing shaman. Today she's treating this man for diabetes. The ceremony is a mixture of Catholicism, mysticism, and involves animal sacrifice.
Maria Siliarora, Cuchabocol, Sicabocol, Santa Maria, Cajval, Justo Ves, Chabuenda Bene Malgenele, Chabuenda Bene Malgenele, Cajval Sacometa, Betsacomet. Cushetic Mecahwalti Juni, Bectale, Tot Cushetic Mecahwalti Juneta, Kepale Cajwal.
But what I find incredible is how she's using Coca-Cola.
Échanme. Altas kuchike, Tachikuchal das locas y chamele de cuchayelone.
Look at this, right next to the shrine. Maria's own well-stocked Coke fridge. She says she sells about 50 crates a month.
Why do you think there is so many people with diabetes here?
Alich ibahik da asakal chamele, hakuchal javil, tatas kak al kontondik, tuheche problematic. Usha chobol kadik chabahta kinti, chabal kam delti, muyukusi oikundik, hade dahtadik oli chamel kechelane.
Do you think there are a lot of people with diabetes here because they have sugar drinks?
Chalik. Ali bone da hawashta 50 años, 51 hasta 51. Ali masto si lokta elbanaje, skuch, olol caja li riesque mon jutu con skuch, cerveza, pollo, stekel, pemuyukusi saco hot.
It's dangerous advice. Diabetics need to cut down on their sugar intake.
I'm a bit shocked after that ceremony. I've participated in many indigenous rituals in this part of the world, and I've never seen sugar drinks being offered to the gods. Here, to sell Coca-Cola gives you status in the community. Clearly, sugar drinks are engraved in the culture here.
To combat the growing health emergency, Mexico introduced a sugar tax in 2014 that has had some impact on consumption. But critics say money from the tax should have been spent on prevention.
Un geazones de los champones.
Back in San Cristobal, Pedro's mom Maria is busy running her small shop.
¿Vende mucho dulce?
Sí.
Los niños comen mucho dulce.
¿Qué comen?
Pero este sí es la que más vende.
Es el vendo. Ese más quiere gente, si no hay ese, ¿y por qué no compras? ¿Y por qué no agarras? Y sabes, compramos.
Buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes.
Véndame 2 cocas, por favor, grandes.
Ese no está preparado.
Maria just sold 2 Cokes to a man outside, and she was telling me how she buys 2 crates of Coca-Cola a week.
Maria makes very little profit from the sale of Coke, but her livelihood depends on it. If she doesn't stock Coke, her customers would go elsewhere.
¿Qué es más caro, comprar agua o comprar Coca-Cola?
Igual.
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 ¿Y aquí el agua de la llave no la puede tomar?
Del tubo, no.
Del tubo. Es mala.
Viene sucia.
Viene sucia.
Sí, pero
Que si la tomas te enfermas.
Dolor de estómago.
Sí.
As the population of San Cristobal has grown, water has become increasingly scarce.
Hi,
Hey,
Fermin.
Guillermo, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you.
Fermin Reigadas is campaigning to improve the town's water supply. He's going to run a series of tests to show me the quality of the town's drinking water.
This is a river that comes into San Cristobal de las Casas, and as you can see here, we are in a private reserve, so it's in the middle of the forest. We should expect the water quality to be pretty good.
Coca-Cola gets its water from deep underground wells, but the drinking water people rely on comes from overground springs.
So we're going to collect it from this place where it's flowing.
He wants to test for levels of E. coli bacteria.
This is basically the food for the E. coli, and the E. coli love to grow on this. If you find E. coli, it means that the water has been in contact with feces.
So how long does that need to rest to know how much E. coli it has?
We need about 24 hours.
Okay.
And that's enough time for the E. coli to reproduce and to make these change colors.
If we want to see the water that is being drunk by the people of San Cristobal, where we should go?
There are a couple of springs that are the largest in San Cristobal, and they feed most of the city.
We're heading back into the town so we can test the water there.
All of the houses that you see in here do not have sewage. So they are basically dumping the water into the river.
Is the situation with the sewage common?
The city does not have the infrastructure to collect the sewage, avoid the sewage getting into the river. Just make sure that I don't fall.
Yeah, no worries.
And this is the spot close to where the city sources its drinking water.
I'm amazed to think that this was once a clean water river next to a beautiful spring, and now it smells like pure sewage.
Fermin is taking more water samples to test for E. coli.
As a water expert, what do you think about the amount of water that Coca-Cola is using?
The city really needs to tap to the water that is underneath. You know, having a plant that has pristine water and you have hundreds of thousands of people in the dry season, they have to deal with a small amount of water, terrible quality. I think that inequality shouldn't exist.
The next day, I head back to Fermin's lab to see what he has found.
Fermin.
Guillermo.
Hi, how are you?
Very good, and you?
Have you managed to check the tests we did yesterday?
Let's check them out. So this is an incubator. So look at this.
Wow.
So there was a change in color in all of the pouches, and that means that there's a high concentration of E. coli on the water. This is nasty water.
When you add up the problem of the water and the problem in eating and drinking rubbish, what do you have?
You know, children grow up malnourished, and then because they're drinking a lot of Coca-Cola, their body doesn't assimilate the sugar. It's a terrible combination.
Coca-Cola says it has a policy of not promoting its products to children under 12. The samples from higher up the river also contain traces of E. coli, but were at much lower concentration.
Hola, mi doc.
Ahorita la paso.
Roberto is back in the clinic with Mam Maria to check on his condition.
194.
Roberto's sugar levels are quite high. They're nearly 200. They should be between 70 and 100. ¿Qué cosas tiene que seguir ahora él?
Más que nada, cuidar mucho su alimentación.
Y no puede tomar bebidas azucaradas, nada de eso.
Nada de eso.
Now it's Maria's turn to get tested.
Está un poco elevada.
¿Cuánto tiene?
336.
Ahora sí.
¿Esto es alto?
Sí, está alta, está elevada, está fuera del rango normal.
It's come as a shock.
Te has estado preocupando mucho por tu hijo y no te has preocupado por ti,
Ah, sí.
¿no?
Como si caramba mi hijo, que tiene que ser triste uno, pues. Sí.
Bájese tu cubrebocas, por favor.
She's feeling dizzy, she has a headache, her legs are in pain. I mean, for the doctor, there are all symptoms of her diabetes getting worse.
No llevan una medicación, no llevan un control del azúcar. A consecuencia de la neuropatía se va perdiendo la sensibilidad. Un golpe, una lastimada, cualquier objeto cortante puede complicarse a una úlcera y llevar a una infección y llegar al grado de una amputación.
Coca-Cola says it agrees that too much sugar isn't good for anyone, and they are taking action to help people drink less sugar. It says since 2018, it has reduced the calories across its Mexico's drinks portfolio by over 25%, including by reducing added sugar content. Today, another funeral is taking place. It's for a man in his 50s. The cause of death is diabetes. Pedro has been called to play.
I've been here for 3 days, and Pedro has already been to the funeral of 2 people with diabetes. Clearly there's another pandemic here. It's not COVID, it's diabetes.
It's another grim reminder of the toll diabetes is having on this community.
Todas esas muestras de cariño, reitero, y que en estos momentos, pues mi papá ya descansa en paz.
¿Cómo estuvo? Oye, desde que he estado contigo hace 3 días, ya vas tocando en 2 ceremonias fúnebres.
Ahora sí que es como la pandemia, esto no se acaba. Hasta que no se cuida uno, sigue. Sí, lamentablemente pues no entendemos por los malos hábitos, mala alimentación y tomar mucho refresco, muchos azúcares.
Me contó Jorge que era un buen hombre.
Sí.
Sí, que estaba con una enfermedad, con diabetes, ¿no?
Sí, tenía una fuerte diabetes y ya al último sus riñones dejaron de funcionar y su hígado. Ya.
Te siento mucho, de verdad.
Muchas gracias.
Te siento mucho. Espero que estés bien.
Gracias.
Chao.
Les agradezco.
Chao.
But changing habits won't be easy.
Nice juice. This is also made by Coca-Cola.
This community is suffering from a deadly combination of poverty, a lack of basic services, and too much sugar in the diet. If these problems aren't addressed, another generation will be condemned to an early grave.